Okay, so today we're going to talk about social policy. Before we do that, I want to jump in real quick and talk about the final exam. It's published as of today. It's active as of today. Today, the 25th. Um, and you have until August 4th to finish it. Please don't wait to the last moment to take care of it, because if you go over, can't get to it, I can't allow you to take the test after that date. And if something happens with your computer crashes, I can't help you. So you have plenty of time. You have 13 days to complete it. So please do. 100 questions. They're not taken from the book, and they're not taken from. I don't use like paid service question bank or one from the college. They're all my own questions. The critical thinking based. So it'll require you to put some thinking in there on each question. You have plenty of time. It's open. I don't have a time limit. And please follow the instructions on it. Actually, get 2 attempts. Part of that is I just want to see the differences. So if you have to, you have 2 attempts, but you shouldn't need it. All right, social policy. So social policy. It really is a very broad term, and I'm going to kind of spend some time specifically on a particular type. I'm going to post a crash course video with this. I love crash course. I've used them in high school as well as middle school as well. I love their videos. They're great bunch of guys over there and ladies. And I've spent some time with Cookie. She's one of the people who's on one of the shows, as well as has their behind the scenes stuff, and they're just very good. They're awesome. They're awesome people who know their stuff. So I'm going to post theirs along with mine, but I'm going to concentrate on social policy as it reflects the idea of a public good. And this is going to lead to your discussion point at the end that you're going to need to talk about. So please watch the whole thing. So let's think about a social policy as in a public good. Well, let's consider Amtrak, right? Amtrak right now is under a lot of debate because it's 100% pretty much funded by the federal government, and the argument is that it's waste of money. We shouldn't use it. Well, there's a problem though. On the East Coast, they use Amtrak heavily for getting to and from the cities for people who work in and outside the city. Out here, I live in East Glacier Park for a couple months in the summer. So my wife works at this part of the year, and to get to and from over to Whitefish and over to the west side, sometimes we catch the train. It's easier. It saves me gas money, right? It saves me putting miles on my car every single day. So because of that, I'm using Amtrak, which means I'm using a public service, a public good. So the debate is it really a public good, a public service, or is it just a private company that doesn't do well? Well, one, it cost me like $20 to $21 to go there and come back, right? So it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. It helps me, right? There's some people that get here and they work here for the season. They're from overseas. They get off the plane, they catch an Uber, or they catch a taxi cab, they go to Whitefish, they hop on the train, and then they come and get dropped off right in front of the lodge. Okay, so that's serving as public good. So let's take this a step differently. Growing up, a few years I lived partially in high school and as a young adult in Seattle, and every day I caught the 106 and 107 transit bus to my job and other places. I couldn't afford to own a car. I just was not even on my radar. So I heavily used public transportation, and quite frankly, I like it. It's kind of fun to sit there on a bus and watch people. It's kind of observe them. People are interesting, right? And I'm a social scientist, so I like to socially observe, right? And it's fun. But some people can't afford a car. They can't afford the basic things to get around. They need that public good. They need that public transportation. And the simple fact is, what they spend each day to catch a bus each day, it's a fraction of the cost it takes to own and operate those buses. So that's a public good. So we should just go ahead and say, that bus company, they shouldn't receive any federal money. They're on their own. If they can't handle it, too bad, we'll shut them down. Well, how many people rely on those buses? What about in the bigger cities rely on those buses, those trains? We need them. So just because we're not here, just because we're in Montana and we're not in the big city where they use them all the time, doesn't mean that public good, that public service isn't valued and isn't needed. So that's a social policy. We have to look at it that way. Another one would be, you right now, if you get sick and you go into the emergency room, they'll treat you. Yes, you're going to get the bill, but the fact that the door is open and they'll serve you and see you, that's a social good, social policy. And that, again, comes back from some federal monies that are given or state monies that are given to the hospital to help out with that. Another one we'll say is, Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to get into the thing about the ACA or Obamacare, but the idea behind it, it's a social good, it's a social policy. Could have been done better. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But the idea behind it is that it's a social good, social policy. As a veteran, I receive post-military service veteran health benefits, and that's a social good, social policy. Someone had a lobby to each one of these social policies to get them passed, to receive monies for them. And I've had a lot of medical work done. I have a back injury, and they've covered some pretty big surgeries that would have bankrupted me. And so that's been a good social service, a good social policy. At the same time, right now you're in school, and you may be a high school student, one of the dual enrolleds, or just someone going to college, and you're getting a grant, or you're getting a student loan, or you're getting something like that. Those are social policies. Those allow you to go to school and not have to pay the much higher fees to be in this class or other classes. So there's a social policy, social goods. I lived in New Mexico for a number of years in my 20s, and they had a joke. They were on some of the worst roads in the country. They were horrible potholes. And they say, if you're going to live in New Mexico, bring a spare tire, because if you get a flat, you could be in the middle of nowhere needing to fix your tire. So, a lot of road work took place. They received some federal monies. And they got their roads fixed. That's a social good, a social policy. So my part of this discussing social policy is a certain aspect of what you're reading in your textbook. But it deals specifically with thinking about social policy as it relates to a good, to a service, right? And I want you to think about that part of this for the discussion point. I want you to look around, think about how what may be impacting you from a social policy, whether it's the roads that you drive on, whether it's being in school, whether it's post office, right? Social policy, it's federally funded, right? Post office, maybe I'm speaking from someone who's never been raised on a farm as far as like for a living, but maybe during part of the year, I know in West Texas, some of the farmers there would have to receive some federal subsistence when they had a bad year or two and they weren't able to make their loans or to make their payments and their crops didn't do well. That could be something maybe of, or a rancher, right? So think about different ways that social policy has impacted you, and negatively or in a good way. I know some people that the Affordable Care Act wasn't affordable. It literally went up triple and quadruple what they were paying before, and they got less services. I know some people who have done very well with the ACA. So there's a positive and there's a negative, and of course it's something that we're currently seeing. We're seeing right now Congress and the Senate right now looking to find a way to repeal the ACA and find something to repeal it with, something to replace it with. So clearly they're not going to get rid of it completely, which means that it's serving as a public good, a public service. And with that, when they were arguing for the Supreme Court for the ACA, made it very clear it's a tax, it's a public service. We're taxing you for it. So those are some of the discussion ideas to think about. I'm not trying to lead you down either a right or left path or Republican or Democrat. This is nothing like that. I just want you to think about social policy as it relates to a goods or a service that you receive, okay? That's the idea behind this. Again, read the chapter thoroughly. Watch the video from Crash Course. Do some research. Don't always go with one person's view. I'm not the only person that knows or believes I know political science. Go to different resources. I always say that if you're gonna study something, study every aspect of it. Don't just study one particular perspective. Okay, which again is a social side not a social side as in that sense, an analyst side of looking at policy, looking at political science. Shh. So I have dogs. All right. Have a great week. I look forward to your discussions. Okay.